Hi. So today I'm going to share with you some valuable information about who's in charge in this country. The people I'm talking about are people who will be familiar with you because some of them may well be your parents. But what I'm actually talking about is older people. And today I'm going to tell you quite a lot about them, their wealth, their hobbies, what they do with their free time, what they care about, and how they vote. The reason why this is such an important topic is because the aging of Western populations is causing a massive shift in power towards older demographics and away from the young. So I figure that you need some information to navigate the territory ahead. This first slide shows the pyramid of wealth in this country. I myself am about to reach the 55 to 64 age group. That is 55 to 64 as an age up there, and there are 7.1 million people of that age in this country. This is, as you can see, a heavenly spot. I have already spent 9 years in the 45 to 54 age group. And actually, I've never really felt comfortable in that age group because at the lower end, there are people who parted with good money for Duran Duran. I kid you not. Whereas actually now, February 2013, I glide effortlessly into the really cool set. What I'm talking about, of course, is the people who are the baby boomers. These are people who parted with good money for Led Zeppelin, Bob Dylan, some really good stuff. And so, and also, as a feminist from the disco age, this is a much cooler group to belong to. Because after all, these are people who are hippies and wanderers, and these are the people at the top of the pyramid in the UK today. How many are there? Well, there are 43% of the population is aged over 45. So it's the 45 plus age group that is really the source of power in this country. Now, I myself am a powerful person, as this is why I'm standing before you. But actually, as a woman, I'm really in a small minority. In the commercial sector as a whole, including all the professions you can think about, women comprise only 15% of the top echelons. That's true in every profession you can think of. And this is after a whole generation of empowerment. But women exercise their power in different ways, and economic power is not the only thing that matters. Women exercise their power through their control of family expenditure, through their engagement with politics and community issues, through their homemaking, and they also dominate certain parts of the public sector, although there too the same power structure occurs and the top positions are primarily occupied by men. So the 45 plus have 79% of the wealth. And how did they come by it? Well, they were in the right place at the right time. The UK had two big waves of growth, one in the 80s and then from 95 onwards in a central bank-fueled orgy of self-destructive spending on the welfare state. These trickle-down effects came to the baby boomers. And therefore, you're going to have a long, long climb. If you think back to that previous slide, that's a very steep climb towards wealth in this country. One of the reasons why you're going to find it a big struggle is because employment is falling in young demographics. The slide shows that actually unemployment has fallen since 2007 in both of these critical demographics. One of the reasons is the changing shape of the economy and the impact of technology. So an increasing percentage of sales are going through the e-commerce channel, and as a result, many, many retailers are going bust, and many intermediate, low-level jobs that used to occupy people are also going. So, if anyone reads the newspapers, I'm sure you'll have seen that Comet went into receivership on Friday, and it's that kind of effect which has caused 18.5% of 16 to 24-year-olds in this country to be currently unemployed. If you think that's bad, though, spare a thought for those people in other parts of Europe. There are parts of Europe where unemployment in this age demographic is titanically high. In Spain and Italy, it's over 25%. In Greece, it is said to be 50%. In certain disadvantaged parts of Europe, you're looking at levels that are reaching 80%. And the impact of that unemployment is primarily on young males. Now, things are only going to get worse for many people in this country because the introduction of tuition fees is going to create a barrier. And in fact, university applications fell this year. People who don't go to university have lower employment prospects and more difficult lives. The other group, so that you can spare a thought for other groups, who is also facing severe unemployment is women. Not women aged over 50, but women aged between 25 and 45 are facing very severe difficulties. In fact, in this country, 1.2 million women are currently unemployed, which is more as a total than this group of 16 to 24s. But actually, it's a bigger age group. In contrast, the baby boomers are doing incredibly well. For those who are in employment, the unemployment rate is 6% for men and even lower than that for women. But by this age, many, many women will have dropped out of work. And for one very good reason, they're going to have had children. And many women do not go back to work, certainly not in the commercial sector, to a greater degree in the civil service because it's much more flexible and much more female-friendly. Now, the dominance of men in the commercial sector is well known. 85% of non-exec directors on FTSE boards are male. But actually, you probably don't know, and I didn't know, quite how old they are. They're 59. That's the average age of a non-exec director. So the corporate governance of the commercial sector, publicly quoted companies, is in fact the preserve of old white males, older white males. 81% of general directors of companies are over 50. So you're going to find older people in positions of responsibility in every company you work, as well as in every other institution you touch base with. But this group of people is actually a very benign group of people. Many of you will be thinking about pursuing careers in the creative industries. Well, this group of people, the baby boomers, love culture. And this is a very wonderful thing about the UK. The UK has the most vibrant and interesting cultural space of any nation. So the creative industries employ around 1.5 million people. That's across book publishing, newspapers, magazines, independent production, advertising, the theater, museums, and so forth. And this is a sector, the creative industries as a whole, where the UK has an extraordinary global reputation. So we have around 10% of our exports are comprised of creative products, which is more than any other nation apart from the US. And also, there is a mass participation in this sector. We're all part of a creative space. So, why are you all going to find that the audiences are all gray-haired? Well, because they are all gray-haired. So this shows you how many people in that age group, the relevant age groups, are going to classical music. And you can see that the older you are, particularly over 45 and 65, the more you're going to participate in this. And it's interesting to me because when I was 21, which is a very long time ago since I'm about to be 55 in February, I was actually the only person who seemed to show up at the Royal Festival Hall, and I was asked, you're the only young person here, all of our audience is going to die. And I said, no. They're actually going to make it, and even if they bought Led Zeppelin and Bob Dylan, one day they'll love to go and listen to wonderful music. And the search for beauty is, after all, something that sits very much at the core of our culture. The drama attendance is more evenly skewed, but for all you budding actors and directors, you're going to find that the audience is overwhelmingly middle-aged. Art exhibitions are also patronized by large numbers of older people. And there's also a very good reason why this is so. These are people who are in the right life stage. These are people who are able to get out and about and who actually want to participate in every part of the creative space in the UK. And there also are people who will vote for allocation of expenditure to education and to the arts. People hold these institutions here very, very dearly. And they're founded on the Anglo-Saxon gem, on the most genial thing that the Anglo-Saxons ever invented, which is beautiful words. And so, moving on, you will see that this group of people, the baby boomers, are also extraordinarily well informed, and they consume these beautiful words and these intelligent thoughts in so many different media. So 45 plus, the 45 plus age group comprises almost 80% of all TV news viewership in this country. So they're very, very focused on what's happening. But because of public service broadcasting and the impartiality requirements on TV channels, people watch TV news for news. And they also make up their minds when they see the performances of politicians. And within this, what they're looking for from newspapers is something really quite different. So in that group of 27 million people who are 45 plus, you'll find that around 10 million are buying a newspaper every day, and the average readership of that newspaper will be around 40 minutes. Averaged across the age range, because they don't all buy newspapers and read them, it comes out at around 28 minutes. And what people are using newspapers for is to get opinions and depth of information about political issues, economic issues, about culture, about sport, about all manner of things. And the people who read and who allow that depth of words in their lives are people who tend to be very well engaged and who are people who build societies. So I urge it upon you as a lifelong habit. But what people really do a lot of in this country is watch TV. So on this slide, what you see is that 50% of all media consumption across all age groups is television. And that has been the case for a very long time and is really unbudgeable. Within that consumption pool, the internet has wedged itself in over the last 15 years. And this is all internet activity, including social media and so on. But you can also see that actually the traditional form of radio and the way that people consume radio in this country, which is a lot of spoken word radio, Radio 4, a lot of people love words even on radio. And you can see that within that whole media consumption, the national press only accounts for 4%. But that percentage is an incredibly important percentage, because those people are not only, as I've just explained, likely to be very, very well informed, but they're also people who are likely to be people with the real wealth and power in this country. So that's why newspapers have held up remarkably well and why they're actually still with us. Interestingly, this slide shows how it is that people spend money. This is the advertisers and how they spend their budgets. And you can see that although TV accounts for 50% of consumption, it is now only accounting for less than 40% of expenditure. And that's because people watch a lot of TV, and more to the point, people are increasing the amount of TV that they view, particularly in the older demographics. So why is the internet such a significant part of expenditure, given that it's only 10% of time? Well, that's because that bucket contains expenditure on search, and this country has the highest level of e-commerce of any nation at around 15% of total retail sales. So that number, the internet, 43% of total advertising income, also reflects this dramatic change in the shape of retailing from a physical world to the cyber world, and a massive transfer of wealth primarily to American companies that don't pay tax in this country, nor indeed in Europe. Now, in that pool of readership, those 8 million people who are reading press every day, you can see that that old adage that the older you are, the more conservative you are, is actually true. And it's also true, alas, of people who grew up with Led Zeppelin, Bob Dylan, and should have really drunk more Kool-Aid in the 60s. Unfortunately, and the 70s, sorry. As a feminist from the disco age, there was plenty of Kool-Aid around. Anyway, but you can see that this is an age skew of these publications, and you can see why it is that, as I say, people are reading these publications in order to hear opinions and commentary and to be part of a particular zeitgeist. Why is it so important as to which newspapers people read? That's because people vote. People who read newspapers are much more likely to vote than people who don't. And people who read newspapers are going to elect MPs that are in their age range. So many people in this audience are very young. 80% of all MPs are aged over 40. But if you feel underrepresented, think how it feels to be a woman. Even though 52% of the electorate is female, only around 20% of overall MPs are female. And I'm talking about across every group. So in the case of Labour, it's 33%. Tories, it's around 15–16%. Lib Dems, 22%. So we share the underdog status. But in particular, I draw your attention to the fact that there are more MPs over 60 than there are under the age of 40. That's a real sign of how it is that people elect people who are going to reflect their views. Now, party vote by age. Alarmingly, the young demographic has actually got a very even balance of views in terms of how they voted in the last election. I only say alarmingly because some very long time ago, it is unlikely that the Conservative Party would have had quite the good innings that it had last time. But you can see that the distribution of age, again, shows the same corollary. The Telegraph reader, the blues, and in fact, the lesser distribution for other groups. But the important thing to focus on here is that in terms of gender, women are more likely to have flexible views, and therefore they are the most important swing factor. So what I'm telling you is that although women don't have a huge amount of economic power, my generation managed to get to that 15% point. But women yield real power in politics. You can see it in the American election, where the undecided women have proved to be the core target for Obama and Romney in the final stages. And this is because women are more flexible about their political opinions across their lives. And as a result, they're also people who really focus on community issues and who have a great love of spending on health and education, and who really, really care about the fabric of this country. And upon the shoulders of these women rests much of the charitable activities in this country, and much of the slow, careful rebuilding of communities that happens, and that will happen as the welfare state judders to a halt. And the way that these women have exercised power is the same way as the older demographic. They turn out to vote. This last slide shows the level of participation in the baby boomer age group, which I am happily about to join. I'm about to be on cloud 9 for 9 years as a 55 to 64-year-old, and I'm going to be voting in the next election. And this is where the balance of power really lies. Those people who vote claim the power slowly. The women in this country have not had the best innings. They've done fine, but actually there's no 50-50 anything. But women vote with their feet, they vote with their heads, they vote with their hearts. And I urge upon you all to participate. The road to wealth may be rocky, it may take forever. The population shifts mean that every year someone of my age is going to be a month older, and denying my lovely children for 1 month more every year the incredible, valuable inheritance of my genius upon this earth. So, the best thing to do is to participate and engage. The benefits that come from engagement with words, with thought, these are pervasive and these are for everyone. And that is real power. The real power is to understand and to know. Thank you.